So whether you play ArcheAge or not right now, you may have seen this. This is a countdown to what we believe to be some kind of big announcement from Tryon Worlds, which was recently, or not so recently, acquired by the Gamigo group. And for some reason the Tryon name's still associated with it, but it's Gamigo. It's whatever, ignore the Tryon situation. But regardless, this is fresh from Gamigo, and although it says nowhere that it regards ArcheAge specifically, it doesn't take much to realize that it's referring to ArcheAge. There's no doubt about it. The quotes on the page all talk about different aspects of the game, and some specifically refer to labor, which is a pretty big giveaway. And if that's not enough to sell you on the idea, since recording this video, the webpage art has been updated further to show a dwarf, which is very clearly from ArcheAge. And although they've added some nice animations to the art of the dwarf itself is an older piece from a while back when the Dwarven and Warborn races were released back in, I believe, 3.0 or 3.5, somewhere there. So we know that this is something definitely to do with ArcheAge, presumably some sort of big announcement, but what exactly can we expect this to be? Well, Gamigo have left us with a bunch of clues and hints to kind of build up the hype around the countdown. The first thing we notice is the catchphrase on the website, "Discover your legendary self," which some speculate is hinting at some kind of ArcheAge-based MOBA game that allows you to play as the gods from the ArcheAge lore. I personally think that's insane, and although it's really funny to think about, there's just no chance that ever becomes a thing. I hope. But to be honest, I have no idea what this catchphrase is hinting at, if anything, so I'll leave it up to you guys to give me some ideas in the comments about what that might be, but we're going to move on to the rest of what we see here. The other hints we get are these quotes from the community that are constantly looping on the webpage with answers, presumably from Gamigo or devs, attached to them. We'll go into more detail about each of the quotes soon, but given the context of how each of them is presented here, we can see that the quotes are, for the most part, constructive criticism or feedback about the game, followed by an answer or some sort of acknowledgement of the problem from the devs, which with a kind of tick mark next to them, kind of indicating that they plan to fix these long-standing issues or enhance the good things about the game that are mentioned. So for example, players used to say, "Start a trade empire, build a pirate armada, cultivate a farm, and live the simple life. It's all up to you." And this is followed up by what is presumably a message from Gamigo saying, "This is exactly why we love the game. It isn't about following a predefined path, it's about creating a world by choosing the things that matter to you. Your decisions and your interactions have an effect on the game. The sea battles are intense, and trade runs in this game makes the game unique and makes you want to keep playing." Then we have an acknowledgement from the devs saying, "Speaking of sea battles, there is more to come. Let's set sail into a new adventure." Now this specifically, I'm assuming, is hinting towards the sea battle royale situation that's live in Korea right now, which is literally a battle royale where you drive around in like fucking clippers, and your clippers have skills which you acquire from like drops and stuff in the ocean. Like it looks insane, and it will probably be complete trash, but it'll have some dirty good rewards, I'm guessing. So people will probably still play it despite hating it. But who knows? I personally don't like the whole ship driving side of ArcheAge. I don't mind like PvP in water, but driving boats and firing cannons has never really been a huge part of why I like the game. So this doesn't interest me as much as it might interest a lot of other people. So regardless, we're getting a sea battle royale naval situation, so I'm assuming that's what this is hinting at, but we're going to move on anyway. Players used to say, "I played when the game first launched. I ended up quitting after a few months because I was unable to build a house." We get that followed up by, "Housing is an amazing feature, and nothing feels better to invite friends to a housing party, showing everyone how much you love to put into decorating your home. There will be some changes coming up that will ease your pain to get a house." Now, this specifically, players have speculated, means we're going to get some form of instanced housing. And if you played ArcheAge before, you know that we've never had that before. There's just a huge amount of housing zones throughout the game. And once they're full, if players continue to pay their taxes, they're full. They stay full. So as long as the people who own that land are active players, you basically have no way to put your own land down and build your own house or farm or whatever it is you want to do. So in the current state of the game, now that we're down to basically 2 main servers and then a fresh start server on each NA and EU, for the most part, at least on the legacy servers, there's not really much housing available. And if it is, it's being sold at a really steep price. So for new players and things like that, it's quite difficult to get any kind of land, and especially not a lot of land connected in any kind of way. So this is a big hint towards either instance housing or way more housing zones, because they would need a lot of housing zones to kind of cater to it, or they would need instance housing. So maybe that's something for us to look forward to. The next one we got is, this game can really suck you in and be great. But honestly, it's so pay to win that if you aren't willing to spend money each month, the other players will be superior, which is super true, regardless of when you played ArcheAge, whether it was the first year or the most recent year. But we get the response, we understand that not everyone is able to spend money on a regular basis. Rest assured, we heard about your feedback. Stay tuned for what's about to come. Again, this is one of the big hints towards the game being either less pay to win, them completely removing pay to win and going with something like a buy to play version of the game, whether it's completely overhauling the game and making it buy to play, or maybe some people have speculated that it could be a buy to play server. So a fresh start server that is buy to play, that will have no pay to win aspects in it, and that will give them kind of a platform to test whether or not the game would be in a healthier state without the pay to win aspects, and whether or not people actually would want to play it, which would be kind of cool and interesting to see. I know I'd definitely test it out and try it out, so we'll see. Players used to say, I played this game for about 2 days but got annoyed that everything took labor points. So this is the main way that we know that this is ArcheAge, because no other game has a labor point system that we know of, and definitely not one that is owned and run by Gamigo as of right now. So we get the acknowledgement, labor is something fundamental in the game. That's true, it's part of the game, to choose wisely where you spend your labor and make the best of it. However, we're working on a more balanced approach for labor points. So this to me is the most exciting part of this whole thing, because there's a reason why people call this game ArcheAge, and that's because if you want to get anywhere without being heavy pay to win, for you to be productive, you need multiple accounts. If we had more labor, like better labor regen, uncapped labor, anything like that, that kind of changes up the game, it would just be so good in so many different ways, especially coming from me, a player who just likes to stick with one account and for the most part gets heavily bottlenecked by the amount of labor I can get. The whole introduction of this new hero gear and everything around that is extremely favorable to free-to-play players and new and returning players, but regardless, you get bottlenecked so hard by your labor. If you're working on your hero pieces every single day, you can go around and do the dailies, and by the time you finish the dailies and then feed all the infusions that you get from said dailies into your gear, or use scrolls to upgrade, or opening coin purses to get tempers to temper your gear, there's no way you end up with labor at the end of that. So, you finish your dailies, you feed some infusions. More often than not, you're going to have infusions left, but you'll run out of labor. So your infusions build up, and your labor is what's bottlenecking your progress on your gear. So if labor wasn't an issue, you wouldn't just have to, you could make progress so much faster. You could go out, do your dailies, and then maybe spend an hour or two just grinding some mobs for your own infusions, because you have more labor, and you could burn a bit more labor feeding some more infusions. Because if you spend the money to have, the pajamas and the plushie, if you take the time to go to Halsey at least once per day, and you have Patron to get the labor regen, then even that is not enough labor in a day for it to not hinder your progression. Even then, I run out every single day, and it's slowing down my progression personally really, really hard. And that's as someone with 230k larceny proficiency. So opening infusions and things like that is way cheaper labor-wise for me than it is for most people. Someone with 10k proficiency would literally be almost double the labor cost, so they would be progressing at half the pace that I am, basically. So, you know, labor is a huge issue, especially for players who are trying to catch up. Like, it slows you down so hard. But moving on. So after seeing this firsthand, my initial reaction was, oh, it's another fresh start server. And for those of you who aren't already familiar with what a fresh start server is, basically when Triumph was at the wheel, every now and again they would crank out a new fresh start server where you would have to create a new character, start from level 1, level to max level, and start everything from scratch. It's just like day one of ArcheAge, right? And they were basically just cash grabs. They would throw in the server. They'd probably make a huge amount of money in the first couple weeks, but then by the time everyone got to max level and started getting gear, pay-to-win players would start to service and pull ahead of everyone. People would get bored. People would get over it. People would quit, and they'd just go back to Legacy or just stop playing in general. And those servers would die within maximum 2 months for the most part. So when I initially saw this, I was like, yeah, it's another fresh start, whatever, who cares? I'll probably play it for the first couple weeks for the huge amount of fun PvP that you get while leveling, and then I'll get bored, and I'll just go back to playing Legacy or whatever, right? And that was really it. I didn't really think too much more of it. I didn't really care too much about the whole countdown, because by this point, anything good that comes from ArcheAge comes down the pipeline from XL Games, and nothing good has ever really come from Tryon or Gamigo particularly. And from my understanding, Tryon never really had any creative control over the game itself other than their ability to make fresh start servers and do some kind of shitty events that they came up with. But even then, the whole fresh start server thing began in KR, and I'm assuming all of the framework they got for the fresh start servers was just a copy and paste version of what they did in KR. So at this point, anything we get is normally live in Korea for a long time before it even comes close to NA or EU. So to me at first, this could only really be a fresh start server, or maybe some kind of new servers with some other kind of intention. What that would be, I have no idea. But it wasn't until a few days later when I looked at the Discord, which is linked in the top right hand corner of the webpage, that I started to think maybe there's some more potential behind this whole thing. Maybe it's not a fresh start server, and maybe it's something a bit bigger. So in the Discord, there's a bot with the name UN and then 5 blank spaces and then an E and then another blank space, like what you see on screen here. From my understanding, they've been releasing a new letter on this bot each day. And whatever the word is behind this is meant to be some kind of big hint for what the announcement's going to be, or it's going to be a description of whatever of this is. But if you look at the amount of different words you can actually make with this, it's super difficult to narrow it down to even a few possibilities. For example, just looking at the Discord for like 10 minutes, just looking at what kind of ideas people were coming up with and guesses they were taking, we got words such as unchained, unleashed, unearthed, which were 3 of the most popular guesses between all the people that I saw. We also got a lot of other like funny ones that were more shots at at Gamigo or just ArcheAge in general, which were things like unplanned, unchanged, uninstalled, which doesn't actually fit but it's still really funny, undecided, or unplugged, which could be semi-legit, but who knows. We can't really, we can't really take much based off this word itself or what we have available right now to get any kind of hints from it, because there is probably 100 plus different words that this could be. But we'll see when they release the next letter. But based on the letters they've released so far, my guess is that the next letter is probably going to be a D at the end of the word, because there's a 99% chance that that letter is a D, and that still won't give anything away at all, because all of the examples that we've given so far for words that would fit this criteria, every single one of them ends in D. And I don't think there is a word possible that could fit into this format without it ending in D. So my guess is that whenever they release this next letter, it's going to be a D, and it's not going to shine any light on the situation whatsoever. So what does it all mean? Well, my best guess is as good as yours, but I still think there's like a 40% chance it's going to be a fresh start server. However, the big thing going around, which caught my eye and seems very plausible, is that, like we talked about before, Gamigo might be planning to take ArcheAge buy to play and move away from the pay to win side of the game. Not only is pay to win quoted as being one of the worst things about the game, but everyone knows that the heavy pay-to-win aspects of the game is the reason why most people quit in the past or have not played the game to begin with. And the only way to combat the pay to win aspects of the game is to pretty much remove it completely. And although it would be really cool for ArcheAge to be free from pay to win, it seems like that would be a little bit too crazy of a change. Like Apex itself is a huge part of the in-game economy, and I'm not sure how taking that away would actually affect the game itself. And even if they took the game completely away from legitimate pay to win, that won't stop the pay to win players at all, unless Gamigo cracks down hard on the abundance of gold sellers and real money transactions that go on every single day in ArcheAge. Unless they somehow ban all the gold sellers and somehow punish the players who use them, the pay to win's always going to be a huge part of ArcheAge, whether we or the devs like it or not. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'd like to hear you guys' theories if you have any other ideas of what this might be, whether it's just going to be a fresh start, or maybe Gamigo's taking some steps and, you know, we're going to see a little less pay to win in the near future. But regardless of what happens, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notification button, and if you guys really enjoyed the video, I just recently made a Patreon, so go over there and show me some support. And as always, my Discord is in the description below, so if you want to come over, discuss any of this over there, that link's right there, so come on over, hang out and say hello. But as always guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next video of whatever I make. Cheers. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it's like a solid like 60% chance that we're getting an ArcheAge MOBA, so see you guys on the fucking ArcheAge Rift.